I think on average we can pretty much all agree that murder is generally, nearly almost always, a bad thing most of the time. First introduced in 1993's hit video game Doom, the concept of killing was invented with the purpose of brainwashing an entire generation of completely innocent church-going children into becoming mass murderers. I mean, just look at me. I was a good boy, the only thing I wanted out of life was to do my homework. That was until I discovered DMA Design's Grand Theft Auto. I span wildly off the rails, joining ISIS, doing heroin, and getting this really sick tattoo. Now the only thing I have to be thankful for is the fact that I've never been much of the mass murderer type. Yet. GTA starts in a way that every modern game nowadays could learn from, straight away and with no fucking around, directly after the 2-hour loading screen. And although there's no actual story to warrant a cutscene or tutorial, you are given a colour palette of pre-made diversity quota characters, each with no unique traits, stats, abilities, backstories, or reasons to choose one over the next. Instead, as a form of story, the game very subtly pressures you into getting yourself a job like any other respectable, honest, contributing member of society through a grimy payphone in the street, but I of course wouldn't actually know that. Wow, it's like this game was made by my dad. The issue being, however, not that these missions are boring, shallow, unrelated, not rewarding, way too difficult, meaningless tasks. Well actually yeah, mostly exactly that. But also the fact that you never know what you're supposed to be doing because the moment you start reading the nice yellow paragraph, by the way, it either times out, gets in the way of something immediately important, or is displayed alongside one of the game's way too short mission timers. Ultimately making GTA basically blindly follow and arrow the video game, or as I like to call it, society, man. Which is probably why it's the smallest aspect of the game and one that no one really cares about anyway. That's 9 hours of my life I'm never gonna get back. Because the real game is arguably outside of the missions, where the game's maps just open up entirely, except not visually anywhere in game, despite how much of a vital feature that is to be able to do literally anything. But hey, let's be fair, this is 1998, the technology needed to display a 2D low-res static image was probably just way too advanced. Ordinarily, I like to pride myself on how I'm just your average guy. I like my beers cold, my sports boring, and my violent video games unrestrictive and allowing of civilian genocide. None of which is doable here thanks to in-game features like human rights and the law, just like real life. Except I don't want life, I hate life. That's why I'm playing this game now. Committing major crimes like murder in Grand Theft Auto rewards you with the added challenge of imminent arrest or death, obviously to further incentivize the player to recreate the act in real life. And death is absolutely imminent because the police enforcing these laws are fucking hyper unrealistically well funded. Each crime adds an additional face to your wanted level, which in total determines the speed and extent to which the police want you dead. And since the only way to stop that from happening is to respray the colour of your car in one of these tiny hidden garages, there's essentially no way to stop that from happening because again there's no in-game map. So if you do find yourself backing into a police car, so basically if you find yourself playing this game, you're basically dead at that point. Just be thankful you don't have lives. Guess what? You actually have lives. While defending yourself isn't an option due to the combat being entirely broken, what it does succeed in doing is extracting the joy from the thought that one day, no matter what, I will eventually die. The punch attack may as well just not exist, and you can forget about the pistol because honestly I found gently blowing on the screen to be more effective. The guns in this game are all found, presumably like in any other American city, in crates on the street, but what you're really looking for is the machine gun, due to the small fact that it's literally the only possible way to pass pretty much every single mission in the entire game, especially the ones that force you from your car, preventing you from just running down the targets you're required to kill, also commonly known as everyone's favourite thing about this game, hey, I've got a good idea, let's prevent that, which sucks because honestly that ends up feeling like what the whole game was created around, reinforced by the fact that even on foot you control like a car with an acceleration button. So as you can imagine, with the vehicles being such an integral part of the game, it was really important for them to make sure they fucked up the handling as much as possible. To be fair, it's probably due to the very little room you're given to maneuver on most roads, making turning around or backing out feel like me trying to navigate a basic social interaction. And although on other roads you do eventually learn where the sweet spot is to avoid traffic and pick up speed, there's only ever like one per map and it's hardly ever used. Also, I feel like I should compliment the decision to make going fast the only way to zoom the camera out despite you needing to see what's in front of you before going fast. Coincidentally, that's also the way to crash, die and have to start the game all over again from the beginning. Which really says something about the entire game when I go back to my previous point about the cars being the only good part. But another reason you never want to leave your car is because it's the only place you can hear the game's soundtrack, unless you change that in the options menu, but that fucks up my segue. The game's soundtrack consists mostly of songs inspired by other songs that were popular in Scotland. Now, I'm not saying it's good, but there is something nostalgic about a lot of them, although they're mostly just weird, and I can imagine everyone else hating them, especially since they're in a game that's supposed to be set in 3 major American cities. Speaking of, not a fan to be honest, can't imagine we'll ever be seeing those again. Unlike Grand Theft Auto itself, however, being so immensely popular that, believe it or not, they even made another one called Grand Theft Auto on the Game Boy Color. And I'll just sum that one up by saying if it was Grand Theft Auto they were going for, then that's exactly what they achieved, in that it's pretty fun actually, good job. Post GTA though, DMA Design would later on become Rockstar North, who would also go on to do absolutely nothing of note whatsoever. The end. That's not fair, they did make Tanktics.